Welcome back, everybody, to the Attract and Stand Out podcast. I'm your host, Darlene Holly, and I am so excited to have you here. I have with me today Griselda Beck, who is a powerhouse speaker and coach that combines her executive experience and expertise with transformational leadership, mindset, life coaching, and heart-centered divine feminine energy principles to empower women across the globe step into their power. Authenticity, if I can say that word, hearts and sensuality to create incredible success in their business and freedom in their lives. Griselda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Darlene. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, definitely. All that in a nutshell, extraordinary confidence that creates results. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. And it's such a beautiful thing to be able to empower women to step into who they truly are and authentically, which I couldn't say a second ago, but I do know how to say, into their true selves. I absolutely love that. And that's part of my mission too, in the work that I do. It's just working with people that are in that authentic place. They want to show up. They want to be true to who they are. They're tired of trying to be like everybody else, watching what everybody else is doing. And they just want to fully own who they are, what they have to offer the world. And I think so many times we're afraid to show ourselves. And so I love that you're on a mission to help empower them and bring that confidence.
Absolutely. And you know what I love about what you do, Darlene, is in the early stages of entrepreneurship, one of the hardest things to do is to tell your story. One, we have so much shame wrapped around it, right? Who knows how we got to this path, but there was a deep pain point or a very deep calling on our heart that brought us here. And unraveling that, it seems so simple in our minds and so clear, and tell the story and to say something to somebody, you get all tongue-tied and you don't know how to talk about it. And then you start feeling like, I don't know who I am. And it's so beautiful that you can guide people into pulling that story out of them in a way that will land and connect with an audience. And it's something that I really, really struggled with early on in my journey. And I probably went through 6 copywriters to try and get my story. Yeah. And it wasn't about someone else writing it for me. It was about me digging deep inside and being able to bring that out. So I had to write the first draft of what this really was. And I could have totally used someone like you to help me bring that out, but it took about 1.5 years. And once I got that out, all the copy and then the copywriters came in and then they created magic, and then they could use that and leverage it to, one, introduce me as you just did, for me to be able to go and network and tell somebody, here's who I am, here's what I do, here's how I can help you. It really starts there and birthing that baby out.
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because so many people I talk to struggle with it. And I know I struggled with it even in the beginning as well. Like when I first realized how important it was to share our story as part of our brand and to build those relationships and to build those connections. Like I was like, wait, how the heck do I do this in a way that doesn't feel like I'm sharing like the skeletons in my closet, right? Which so many people are worried about. Like, do I have to tell you everything? And my answer is always no. Like I know some people think differently and they feel like they're an open book and they'll share whatever they want to as part of their business. And that's great. But I also found that the more strategic we are with it too, like sharing the pieces that actually are going to connect to the hearts,
exactly,
connect to what we're telling ourselves, how we're showing up. It makes us relatable. It gives us the chance to really get to know each other without the icky sales piece, right? That can come with it, because so many people are afraid of the sales. But when you share your story and people connect with you and they relate to you and they like you and trust you, you don't have to sell anymore. You're just showing up saying, hey, I have this thing. Here's what it is. If it's what you want and if it's what you need, if it's a solution to your problem, awesome. And you don't have to, you kind of take away some of that like car salesman-y piece.
Yeah.
Where you don't have any trust built. You don't really know each other yet. And you're just like, here, buy my widget. And you're like, well, I don't even know what that widget does. And who the heck are you?
Yeah. I mean, I support people, and I don't come across and say, I have a business mentorship program, you should hire me. Right. People don't care about you until they know that you care about them first. They won't even hear you until they know that you care about them first. So I love what you said about the skeletons in your closet, because those are the details of the thing. They just need to know that you went through a thing and this is how you felt. and this is what you wanted, because that's how they're feeling in their details of their thing. That's how they're feeling, and that's what they want. And so when they can see that they feel heard and seen and understood by you sharing something that they're resonating with, then they want to know more. And they can see that you have the thing that they want, even if you're one step ahead of them. Just one, right? I want to be where she is. They're going to come and ask you questions. They're going to want to know more. And then you don't have to sell, you just share.
Absolutely. It's that aha moment that we take them to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy. It's so hard to get there when you go into like instant sales, because what you just started to describe a second ago, it made me think of networking events when I first started networking. And people will walk up to you and they're like, they just start talking and like they verbally vomit all over you, tell you all these things. And you're like, okay, cool, thanks. And then they hand you their card and you're like, all right, I guess I'll toss this, or like you put it in a shoebox in your cupboard. But when you connect and you build that relationship first, like you don't even like, then people are gonna be like, do you have a card? I would love your card because I want to absolutely connect with you again, instead of just feeling like we have to talk to everybody in the masses, but really building those authentic relationships are so vital.
Yep.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about you and your story. So tell us a little bit, like take us back. What did it look like for you starting your own business and kind of going on this path that you're on today?
Sure. So I was a ex-corporate executive. I ran a multi-million-dollar public company and working 90-hour weeks, flying everywhere, running office back home from wherever city I was in. It got to the point, I remember this very clearly. It didn't happen often, but I literally had to pack for 3 different trips so that when I came home, I just swapped out the items and then I'd take right back off. I think the shortest time I was on ground was 12 hours from touchdown to takeoff. So yeah, it was a crazy life. And imagine running, being in a relationship during that time. Didn't work. Didn't work. My health didn't work. And I really got burnt out. That's what happened. And so I knew that I needed to make a change and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So this is something that I coach people when they're looking to transition from 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship. Build a bridge. If you're not 100% clear on what it is you want to do, then build a bridge. Do something where you can leverage the skills that you do right now or what you do with the current maybe contacts that you have. So for me, I started a consulting company. I could be doing the same things that I was doing in that job, but for other companies, I can choose who I wanted to work with and choose my hours and all that. And it was great for a while. It bought me time. And I also, one of the things that I really wanted to do was volunteer. And so I approached several shelters that housed women that were going through a low point in their life. And I offered life coaching, career coaching. I wanted to help them with their resumes and just really uplift them and let them know this doesn't have to be your life. It's where you're at right now, but no one dictates your next step. Only you get to choose and you define your future. And so one place took me up on it. And because most places had like specific jobs that they were trying to fill. And so one place took me up on this coaching and they're like, you know what, we really need a self-esteem class. We'll take everything that you're offering, but can you do the self-esteem class? And I said, sure. I go to my therapist. I'm like, I don't know anything about self-esteem. She said, what do you think you've been working on all this time? I was like, oh, okay. I can, help unravel those principles, right? Like sometimes we don't realize what we know that's of value or that could be shared with somebody else. But if we think about our own journey and how we got here, that's something you can teach and pay forward. So that's what I did. I created a 12-week program. I'm still teaching it today. We're 4.5 years into it. And that's one way that I give back. And about a year into it, I was sharing with people, what I was doing. And they're like, Griselda, you're really good at business and marketing. You're my go-to person. But when you talk about this work, you light up. When I heard that about the 8th or 9th time, I know this as a coach, there's something here. So I was like, well, let me test it out. So I put together my first live event and did a workshop, and the results, every single one within 6 months from that workshop and the one strategy session that we had created a significant change in their life. They started a business, they quit their job, they did something to shift and pivot the direction of their life. And that to me was loud and positive feedback. So I decided to go all in, hired a coach, specifically to launch in this new direction, and do the online thing and launch my first summit. And here we are, Latina Boss Coach.
I love that. Thank you for sharing so much of that too, because one thing that stood out to me that you said is we teach what we know, right? Like, and sometimes we don't always know that we know it. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, wait a minute, where did this massive information come from? But a lot of what we teach, I know a lot of what I teach or what I talk about in my business now, whether it's blog posts or videos that I create, it's because I just went through it or I've talked to somebody who was going through it and there's been that parallel piece to it. So I love that you just kind of like had that realization moment and were able to pull together like an amazing program and like catapult yourself forward from there.
So, you know, it's funny. Like I still go through that aha moment with myself all the time. And I'm two-time best-selling author and speaker and got all these credentials, and I still go through it. And it's something that I'm going to continue. You're going to continue. Everyone's going to continue to go through. It's a journey your entire life. You've never arrived. If you've ever arrived, you're done. Like you're 6 feet under, right? We're ever evolving. And I just mentioned that I hired a coach because I was going this whole new direction, online coaching and all this. And after I did my first summit, after all that, I'm like, oh, this is co-branding. I know co-brand, built my career on partnership marketing strategies and learning how to leverage that and open new markets and things like that. I'm like, I got this.
Yeah.
So, just it's that confidence, right? It's the knowing that you know.
Yeah.
But you do know.
You
just don't know that you know.
Yeah. And so many of us struggle with that. So I'm just curious, like, what is your thoughts on if somebody comes to you and they're struggling with the confidence piece and showing up and putting themselves out there? What is like your number one tip for helping people break through that?
I'd love for people to come to me with that. That's not what they come to me with. They come to me with my sales aren't working, my program sucks, because that's how it shows up in our life.
Yeah.
But what's really underneath that is exactly what you just said. It's the confidence piece. It's the consistency to show up. It's feeling like you have a message, like your worth, the value of what you know, of your knowledge, that somebody would pay for that, right? So what do I tell them? It's mindset. We get to go through and figure out where the blocks are. We start with the external. What's your offer? What are you doing? So there's 3 things to me. It's connection, visibility, and an offer, right? CVO. You're not connecting with people, and I don't care. The mechanism for connection is endless, right? We can connect through people with the DMs. You can do a one-to-many connection through social media posting. You can be networking virtual or online, but you get to connect with people. Otherwise, there's no one to offer anything to.
Yeah, you have to build that community up so that you actually have someone.
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on over there? What are you up to?
Absolutely. And you can't create those connections if you're not visible.
Yeah.
If you're not showing up to the meeting, can't meet the people in the meeting. If you're not showing up on social media, no one's going to hear from you to connect with you. So the visibility piece is about frequency, consistency, and where are you showing up? How are you showing up?
Yeah.
That is the key, because you could be posting every day, but if you're not clear, then I guarantee you what you're sharing is not clear. And so it's not that people don't like you. It's not that people don't need what you have. It's just that they don't understand how you can help them. And that's so important. And so that's where we do the mindset work, right? Getting clear on who we are, what we stand for, what is it that you want people to know. And I love, that comes back to storytelling. What was your journey?
Yeah.
What was your journey like? And where might other people be in their journey? How might they be feeling? And so I do this thing called Create Your Perfect Offer, right? It's a 2-hour intensive with people. And the biggest mistake, the most common mistake people make is they talk about what they do. People don't care about what you do. And that's often why we feel like what we have is nobody wants to buy it. we get to shift that and talk about where they are at. What are they feeling? What are their pain points? What do they want to not feel anymore? What are they tired and exhausted from? What do they really want? That's their point A to point B. That is all they care about. If they can understand that you know where they are in their point A and that you've got what it takes to get them to point B, then they will listen to how you can help them.
You're connecting those dots, giving them the breadcrumbs to help them get there.
Yeah.
So agree with that, because so many times people come to me and they're wanting support with their offer and different things like that too. And they're like, but I'm doing everything right. Like I've got this amazing offer. And then when we go look at it, it's like, well, and like you got like the premise of it, like I can see where you're going with it, but people don't see themselves in the offer and how you're going to be the one that really solves that problem for them and gets them where they're trying to be to the benefits, right? And we talk about like, so many people talk about like all the features when it comes to an offer. And I'm like, the features are great. Like, they're important. They're a component of it, but that's not that's not what matters. Like, nobody buys a coaching session from me because they're like, oh my gosh, a coaching session with Darlene. Like, I mean, they might a little bit, right? But really,
I mean, after this show, they might.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, it's the benefit though. It's like, what are you going to get after a coaching session with me? And I'm sure that's the same thing with your clients too. It's like getting them through that point where you're like, what's the actual outcome?
Yeah. And they're so excited, right? They're like, oh my gosh, I can do this thing and I've got this modality and that modality. And it's like, okay, all right, we get to, so before I start any session, I always ask for permission. Can I be direct and honest with you? Do I have your permission to be direct and honest with you? Yes. Do I have your permission to interrupt you? Yes. Are you willing to be open to listening what might be uncomfortable, right? And feel horrible in the moment? Yes. Do you trust me to not leave you in that spot and bring you across to the other moment? Yes. Okay, awesome. So we established that up front because sometimes I have to say, they don't care. You're awesome. It's beautiful. They don't care. They will care, but right now they don't care. We get to start at point A, where they are at. You get to meet people where they are. Then you can tell them what you do. So yeah.
It's you made me think too, like so many times we get stuck on like our title, like what we call ourselves. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, I'm an online business coach and I specialize with personal branding. Okay, cool. But that's not like, nobody's going to sell, like that doesn't sell anybody. It's like when you get into the details, when you get clear on your messaging so that people go, oh, they lean in a little bit and they're like, I'm curious, tell me more. That's when you know you've caught their attention because their ears have perked up. They're asking questions, they're engaging. Where when we don't, like when we just go, oh, I'm an online business coach, like most people nowadays, more people know what the heck that actually means. But shoot, 15 years ago when I started my business, when I walked into a room and said, hi, I'm Darlene, I'm a business coach, they're like, oh, what sport do you coach? And I'm like, wait, huh? No, like a business coach. And they're like, well, what's a business coach? It was such a new premise 15 years ago. Now we don't have that problem as much anymore. I don't get that question at all anymore. But 15 years ago, like I had to really figure out my messaging so that people could understand what the heck it was that I did. And it took me 2 years. I didn't know in the beginning how to get clear on that messaging. I was like, well, I'm a business coach and I'm going to teach you this and I'm going to work with you on that.
Take time.
But I didn't get clear with the messaging. And it was like 2 years into my business when I had that like aha moment and it like all finally clicked together. And I was like, oh, I was like, you get what I'm saying now? Oh, I just have to say it this way.
Like I've been saying that. Why don't you know? Yeah.
I'm like, I swear I was doing that for the past 2 years. But when I looked back, I was like, no, I was being very like structured with it and didn't really, I took very broad, right? Like I had like the whole entire scope. I would coach every single business in the whole wide world. And I could with the tools and the resources that I had come through because I had purchased a franchise at the time and I had all this knowledge. I knew I could help anybody, but I wasn't clear on my niche. I wasn't clear on my messaging. They didn't teach me that stuff, or at least I didn't comprehend it, I should say, in the moment. But when people finally, I know probably the same with when you're working with your clients too, like as soon as they get it, like it changes, like you can see it almost click in their brain. They're like, oh, I just need to change how I'm saying what I'm doing and who I am and how I help. And then all of a sudden people, are like, oh, I need that. Or they're telling me, like, you know what? My sister-in-law was just saying the other day,
Right.
whatever.
Referring someone.
Yeah.
Love it.
What would you say has been like one of the biggest challenges building up your practice and your business?
Miss high level corporate executive was very comfortable being in an office. Right. I had a sales team that would go out and do things, and I created magic, balancing all of the resources and everything to create a result at the end of the day. Marketing is where I started my career. I'm a marketing strategist by education and trade, and I'm behind a computer. I'm typing copy. I'm creating websites. I'm, doing all those things. I'm not front page, and it was for a product. This was the first time. Oh, well, even when I was an executive and I did have to come into sales meetings or negotiate, because I would be brought in for contract negotiations and things like that to close the sale, right? But it's a room, there's already a relationship built, and I'm representing a company. This was the first time I was representing me, and that I and the product were one and the same. I had a really hard time with that. Really hard time. And it went layers deep. And this is why it took probably about 2 years to get comfortable, be on camera. I can do a live, I can show up to something. We didn't pre-plan what we were going to say, right? But I can come here and I can roll off my tongue because it's embodied now. And I'm 100% comfortable in who I am and the value that I bring for people. Yeah. But that was hard. It was hard it's like I was afraid that the industry that I left was all watching me and waiting for me to just fail so they could be like, haha, oh my God, first and foremost, if this is you, nobody cares. Yeah. Nobody effing cares. They are so busy working their own 90 hours a week. No one's watching. So I stayed off LinkedIn for about 2.5 years, something like that. Yeah. And, kind of tried to grow this new niche in Instagram and Facebook where I had zero footprint before because my life was very private. Yeah. And so even posting, I remember the day that I did my first Facebook post, I was like a nervous wreck. I didn't sleep. I was just like, this is going to be in public and I can't take it back. Because a lot of times when you're in corporate, especially, if you're at a high level, you keep your life very private. I was off all social media. I had LinkedIn and it was for business only. That's it. And so that was hard. It was hard to meld my personal life, my business life, invite people into my life, that I may not know. What might they see? I was afraid of being judged. What they were going to notice that I thought I was hiding. That's now I understand it's so visible. Like you can't hide anything. People can see right through you, even if you think you are. I was very compartmentalized, like one way at church, one way at business and corporate, one way with my family. And then I had this one set of friends where I could just let loose and just be. Mm-hmm. I get to just be that in every space and every room I walk in today. Yeah. And that journey took time. It took time of therapy, deep mindset coaching, transformational leadership. And here I am today.
That's what's expected of us. I feel like too, like that's kind of how our society raises us, is that we wear a mask and we have to act certain ways in front of certain groups. And for heaven bid, we like to show up as ourselves and be, too much or not enough. Like we have all that worry and doubt. I know I struggled with that same piece too, because in high school, I was always like in my head, I was like, just fit in with the crowd, don't stand out, like just kind of blend in with everybody and kind of go with the flow. And then when I turned into entrepreneurship, I was like, well, wait a second, I'm flipping that whole entire paradigm on its head, because no longer can I stand out or blend in, because if I continue to blend in, no one's going to see me. No one's going to notice. I'm like completely vanilla ice cream. There's nothing fun and exciting because I'm just blending in, which is what I tried to do so hard as a teenager. Right. Mm-hmm. And then when I realized like, oh, I have to stand out. Like what does make me different? Like figuring out like what makes me unique. What's my quirks? What are my special skill sets? What is it about me that's going to make other people pay attention? And it's hard. So many people I talk to, like we're wearing the mask, like you were just describing, like we're wearing the masks in all the different compartments of our life. And when we finally can let loose and just be ourselves, like it feels so good and freeing.
Yep.
But we're still so afraid, like those little other categories are going to judge us, or what are they going to say? Because I can absolutely remember, even still, sometimes I don't post a ton of stuff on my personal Facebook page. I was hacked like a year and a half ago now. And so I have a brand new account, and I lost my Instagram, my business page, and my group, and all of those things. And so I'm like slowly going back into Facebook world. And I'm like, I don't even really care to share any of my details of my life, not because I'm afraid to for my business or anything, but I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I don't care what anybody thinks about where I'm traveling, what I'm eating for dinner.
Yeah.
You know, occasionally I'll share the cute pictures of kids, or, you know, that type of thing. But I'm like, I don't care anymore. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't impact how I'm going to show up and do my business, because I finally got to that point where I was like, I can just be me, and you love it or leave it. Take me as I am. I'm not going to try to make everybody happy anymore.
Yeah. It's about intention, right? Some people are naturally, they share every detail of their life with everyone. That's just how they are in life. You know, we all have that friend, right? Who comes and like tells you everything, like every detail, and you're like, okay, I gotta go. And some people are naturally very private people, right? And so it's about exactly what you said. It's about the intention. Are you sharing this picture to get attention so that somebody will hire you? Or are you sharing this picture because it was a great moment and you'd like to share that and share that joy with others? You know, it makes a difference. I know that people come to me and they're like, you know, with this other program, they tell me I've got to post every day. I'm like, you don't have to post every day. You know,
who is teaching that? That's what I want. Like,
people do. People do.
I know.
It's what worked for them, right? It's what worked for them.
Yeah. I'm just saying that because so many people come to me with the same thing. And I'm like, stop listening to them. Like, you do not have to do all the things and be all the places. Like, go where you enjoy being. Like, if you enjoy Facebook, or if you enjoy LinkedIn, or if you enjoy TikTok, I'm not even on TikTok because I would never show up to do that on a normal day, let alone for my business. But if that was something that I love to do, then I would, or if my client did, I'd be like, absolutely, go there. But you don't have to go to all like 57 social media
platforms. When people are starting out, they don't know, right, what's the right thing. And so, you try this community, you try that community. And so eventually seek one where you feel like you're forcing yourself. It's one thing to stretch outside of your comfort zone, but it's another one to go completely against like all your internal values and boundaries. So you can actually sell without ever having to post anything on social media. That means you get to do other things, right? You can't sit at home and do nothing and expect business to show up, but it might mean that you get to be very clear and share intentionally with your family, your friends, exactly what you do, and encourage them to refer you in business. You network the good old fashioned way before the World Wide Web existed.
I'm so glad you said that, because a year and a half ago when I lost my social media accounts, I had that little bit of moment. I didn't use it a ton. I definitely was like semi-active here and there. Like I shared all my content in all the places, but I had like a panic attack at first. I'm like, oh my God, like all of my followers, all the people on my page and my group, like they're gonna think I just disappeared, because I have no access to like go in and be like, hey people, like I didn't disappear on you. They took my account from me and I still don't have it back today. But luckily I built an email list. Like that's something that I always teach all my clients. Like, we don't own social media. We didn't own MySpace. We don't own Facebook. Like MySpace is gone, right? Like all those things are gone. Like any connections you made there, you don't own those places. Facebook is going to evolve at some point. It probably won't be what it is today. There's LinkedIn, all these different areas. So like build a newsletter list, get people in your community so where you can stay in touch if they want to stay in touch with you, and you can always have that access to them where you don't own social media. Like I love social media for nurturing. I think it's a great place. Once I meet you at a networking event, or if I meet you at a speaking gig, or we're on a podcast together, like I can stay in touch with you from there easily, and we can nurture through social media. But it's not always the best place to cold market. Like, yeah, you can go fishing. You might find some fish. You might get some people here and there, but there's so many other amazing strategies that will pull people in a bigger way, speaking in front of audiences, different things like that, that really give you a big bang for your buck, and the time and the energy that you're putting into it too.
Yeah. And also having the courage to declare what it is you really want to do. Because I was guilty of this myself. I've got clients that come to me and it's like, they get stuck and they don't do the action. So I'm like, okay, we've gone through this 3 weeks in a row, and 3 weeks in a row, we've made the declaration and this is not happening. What is it that you want to do? Well, it's like, I really can't wait to talk on stage one day. I'm like, then why are we building a coaching package? Well, because I got to be a coach and I got to have clientele so that people will trust me and so that I can speak on a stage. I'm like, no, that's not how that works. You know, if you have to do X so that you can finally do Y, stop. Stop what you're doing, you know, and start creating the foundation for why. I declared that I, you know, wanted to go and do 50% of my business in speaking back in January. Well, now I'm speaking on stages, women's leadership conferences, you know, and getting paid to speak. Done a ton of summits. But where I light up is being on stage and connecting live with the audience. And I don't just sit there and lecture, like I'm having a conversation with a room of people. And that's what lights me up. So
I love that when we find what lights us up, it
mm-hmm.
makes it so much easier to show up and run our business every single day. There's nothing worse than trying to do a task on our list that is like either one of our weaknesses, because we all have them. Like, play to our strengths, do the things that we love, show up in the ways that we love. Don't spend so much time focusing on the little things that you don't even want to do. And I love that you said that, because it's so powerful when like you change that paradigm and you're like, I love to speak, I want to do this more. Like, your eyes lit up, you were excited, like you could see the shift in you. Where if we made it to, I mean, the pandemic's made it a little bit crazy, but now that we're able to finally do, I did my first in-person speaking gig last month, and it was so
amazing. The vibe is just so different. I forgot about that energy.
Yeah, it was like the energy from the room, holding the microphone again. It almost felt weird, like fish out of water for, you know, the first 2 minutes, because I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't done this in like 2 years almost at this point, because it had been a few months before the pandemic from my last one. And I was like, okay, it's like, take a breath, Darlene. Like, I was so used to like the virtual world again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different energy. And when we can do what we truly love, we're able to grow our businesses easier. We're able to show up and build those connections, like you shared. Like, those connections are vital. When we can connect with our community and grow together and really inspire and activate change, like, it's a powerful thing. And when you can do it in the masses, in front of a large group of people, it's so powerful, you know, to change one person's life. And that room, just one,
and all worth it.
And it's a ripple effect from there too. So
yeah, I light up by the seed of possibility has already been planting, because they have a dream, right? But I love watching their eyes light up as they see it become a real possibility, as we say, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, because we often get so bogged down in like the big concept that then it's like, but how am I going to get from here to there? It's like a dream, and they leave it.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, if you can see it in your mind's eye, you can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my clients told me recently, they're like, I don't know what I'd do without you, because you could take my big giant vision and like break it down into itty bitty pieces. And I was like, well, yeah, that's part of my zone of genius. It's like my superpower. I can take big things and make them into super small steps so that they're actionable, because so many people struggle with, they can see the baby, like the next step sometimes, but they can't see all the steps towards the dream. And when you only take one step towards that big goal, it, like, you're like, I'm so far away. Like, how am I going to go all the way up this mountain? But when you have people and you bring coaches on with you to help you break those pieces down and make them actionable and set small goals to get yourself there, kind of working it backwards, actually, it makes it so much easier to show up.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, those baby steps are absolutely vital.
Mm-hmm.
Griselda, this has been so much fun talking with you. I could seriously continue this conversation for probably another 3 hours at least. I'm sure we could go into all kinds of rabbit holes, but before we move on to rapid fire, I would love for you just to share, like, what is the meaning for success for you?
For me, it is feeling free. Free in my own skin, free in any room that I'm in, feeling like I'm right where I'm supposed to be in this moment. And I get to choose that moment and the location. So be in and who's with me, right? Which is usually my puppy. But yeah, I remember being in an office, beautiful corner office. I had all the windows, but wishing that I could just like go see the ocean, right? At 9 o'clock on a Wednesday. And now when she and I go for a walk, I do not take that moment for granted. We stop intentionally and take a moment of gratitude, and I embrace her as we listen to the ocean waves and just be in this moment, because this was a moment that I once felt like it was just a dream. Yeah. And I'm living that right now. And sometimes when we're struggling with our business, we're in the ups and downs and we're growing, and there's always a next level, right? So yes, I struggle also anytime there's a new upper limit.
Always.
And we can get bogged down in the doing and the day-to-day things. But when you take a moment to just be in that space, it's everything to me. Yeah. So that's what success is.
Yeah, I love that. Such a beautiful way to describe it. And when you can do it on your terms and in your way, and on a Wednesday, go for a walk at the beach, like you said, like that's perfect. That's what most of us are shooting for. We're not necessarily looking for these big, crazy, elaborate laptop lifestyle.
I want that too, but
we'll take that too. But a lot of times it's just that ability to have some freedom and flexibility and determine what we want. And if we want to take a Tuesday off or go do something different, having the ability, because when you were in your corporate career and I was in mine, like that wasn't an option. Like it was absolutely, there was no. I was required to be at work. And if I was even thinking about a vacation, there was going to be an excuse or a reason why that wasn't going to work because they needed me so bad. And I always laugh now because I'm like, all these, like the companies I used to work for, they're still in business and I don't work there anymore. I'm like, for some reason, they made me feel like if I took one day off, the whole
everything was going to fall.
I'm like, I wish I would have known what I know now, because then I would have been like, no, I am going on that vacation because I have all this vacation time that you gave me and you can't tell me no. Or back then I was like, oh my gosh, we do have that thing happening. Well, shoot, I better be here because the store will fall apart.
Yeah, you know, I used to feel like they were telling me I couldn't take time off because I felt the pressure. Yeah. I didn't allow myself to take time off, right? We get to choose. So even if you're in corporate now, like you get to choose.
But you don't feel like it. It's what you said right there. It's you felt like you couldn't though.
Yeah.
And when you feel like that, it's so impossible. Like when I talk to people now and they work with inside organizations and they're talking about like, oh, they can't do this because of, you know, their schedule and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, you can. I was like, no one told me this when I was in that position. I was like, and I wish somebody would have. So I always try to tell people like, it's okay to take vacation. It's okay to travel. It's okay to request a Tuesday off. Like, do you?
Not just okay. So people told me, I can't say that nobody told me. But here's what I didn't understand. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity, right? If you don't do this, you're going to fail because your physical body can only handle so much. It might give you 5, 10, 15 years, but it will have a crashing point called a heart attack, called a stress breakdown, called whatever. You will manifest illness. A lot of autoimmune disease comes from stress related trigger, right?
Yeah.
So stress really kills. And that was crazy, you know, laying there in the hospital bed thinking like, oh my God, that shit's real. I thought it was just this myth. Oh, people say that.
Well, it's one of those things like that stuff happens to other people. It doesn't happen to me. Like,
yeah, I thought it was invincible for sure.
I thought the exact same thing when I was 17, my senior year in high school, pregnant with my oldest son. Like that was definitely something that happened to other people, would never happen to me. And when we say that in so many, I know I said, I won't speak for others. I've said that so many times in my life, like, well, that stuff happens to other people. Like it would never impact me. And then when it impacts me, I'm like, oh, shoot. Like, all right, I'm listening. I'm paying attention now. I've got you.
Yep.
So let's jump to some rapid fire questions. Okay. I am super curious. Are you binge watching anything on TV right now or on Netflix or any of those channels? And if so,
not right this second. I'm in between things. Thank God. Because I cannot let go. But the last thing I did binge watch was the Five Juanas. I watch a lot of Spanish TV on Netflix, and it was so good.
Awesome. I love it. I never was really like I'm not a big TV person, but lately with especially with the pandemic and stuff, I got into like watching one show a night, and I'm like, now I'm just super curious. Like, what are people watching? What am I missing out on that I haven't even thought about seeing? So I'm always like, all right, I ask these questions more for me. It's like, all right.
Working Moms is one of my favorites.
Oh, that's a good one.
So that was the one before that.
Yeah, I did watch that one recently, and that's a great one. I'm like, anything where like I can laugh. I always joke, I'm like, half the time I watch a show after the kids are in bed and my husband's already asleep because he wakes up really early, and so I'll watch like one show before I crash. It's the only time of the day I get to watch what I want anyways. But I'm usually like laughing, and sometimes he'll wake up and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, sorry. It's like when I watched Schitt's Creek, I kept laughing hysterically. I'm like, sorry, go back to sleep. But yeah, it's always nice to have just something to binge watch, even if you don't actually binge it, because I never get to binge watch anything. My binging is like one episode a night.
Yeah.
And then who would you say has made the biggest influence in your life? If you could name one person.
Just one.
I know, such a hard question when you say
it's probably gonna be my mom. My mom. I didn't realize it at the time, but she planted the seeds of personal development, self-help books right back in the 80s. I hated them. Who knew I was going to grow up to be the person writing the book and speaking on stage about personal development.
It's funny how that happens, right? Like sometimes life takes us where we least expect it.
She said the other day, she came to my book signing. She's like, I should have known I was raising this. But yeah.
I love it. She's like, I crafted you perfectly. And then what would you say is your happy spot besides the beach in the morning on a Wednesday at like 9 o'clock? Do you have a happy spot that you like to go to when you need to like reset, recharge?
Yeah. Two places, my bathtub, and I've gotten really into the sunrise bath thing because, you know, it's typically a nighttime thing that we do. Yeah. But baths can happen anytime. Earlier this week, I got in, I think it's 2 p.m. I had a break. I had a really rough morning and I needed to shift so I could stand up and deliver that afternoon. And I hopped in a bath and I just put myself in a different zone and it worked. I showed up powerfully and ready to shift. And then I have a place on my balcony right outside of my master bedroom that I call Las Vacaciones, which is the vacation spot in English. But it's got my lounge chair out there. I sit out there with my puppy, and all I see when I'm there is like the balcony rails and all the palm tree tops. And so I can get lost in that.
Yeah. And there's nothing better than having like that happy spot just be so simple and easy. Like it's in your back, it's on your patio, or it's in your bathroom. You don't have to go anywhere or do anything special. Like you can make that special moment anytime.
It's free and available whenever I choose it.
Yeah.
The thing is being intentional about going out there and sitting down, right? Because even in the job of your dreams,
there's always something to do.
There's always something. And so it's about setting the intention that I get to go out there, even if it's 15 minutes, and absorbing getting some vitamin D, some sun, and just breathing.
Yeah. Yep. Water is my happy spot. So it's the beach, it's the bathtub, the pool in the backyard, like just even sitting by it, putting my toes in, whatever, like it just rejuvenates my soul. And I can just like, even if I have like 5 minutes, even sometimes just like nice glass of cold water, I'm like, all right, I'm like, the water baby in me because I'm a Cancer or what, but I'm like, water just like reconnects my soul.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then my last question.
Scorpio.
What's that?
Me too, Scorpio.
Love it. And then my last question for you, if you could travel anywhere in the world today, if I could give you a plane ticket, which
Bali.
not everywhere we can actually go, but if I could, where would you go and why?
Bali. It is a place that has been on my heart, and it's one of my next trips on my radar when we can travel freely and not have to worry, right? Because I don't want to travel and then be stuck with all these restrictions. But I want to do a combo 3-week or 4-week Bali, Thailand, 1 week in Thailand, and then 3 weeks in Bali, because I do plan to do retreats out there and just be one with nature. And I love tropical, lush environments. Anywhere I can go where there's tropics, I love it. Caribbean, Costa Rica, Mexico.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Mhm.
And something.
Yeah.
Totally with you. Belize is high on my bucket list right now.
Oh, I've been there. It's so nice.
Have
And
you?
Honduras too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have
So
a friend who's actually there right now, and I'm like loving her pictures that she's been posting. I'm like, it's on my list. I'm like, I can't go right now. I'm not ready to travel, but as soon as I can, I'm like, yep, I'm going.
I've known a few people who that was like their dream, and they up when the pandemic happened, decided, you want to do it, like jokingly, and then they were like, we're doing it.
That's awesome.
Some of them rented out their house, some sold, and they just picked up and left, and they're still there. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Anything is possible.
It's definitely possible. I have too many little crazy children to up and do that, but who knows in the next few years.
I mean, so they did it. They have a child.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
a matter of how much you want something. But yeah, I'm amazed at how they just created that. And there's a few in Costa Rica too that I'm like, okay, I'm coming to visit. Awesome.
Perfect. You're like, have an extra bedroom with my name on it, please. I'm totally okay with that.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been so fun chatting with you. I know people are going to want to connect with you. Where do you like people to go? Is there a special social media place or your website? Where would you like them?
I'm the most active on Instagram. So if you go to at Latina WOC Coach, which is on the screen, I'm in there all the time. Facebook also works, same handle. On LinkedIn by my name, Griselda Beck, and I have a freebie if you guys want to download a book. It talks about why you need a business coach, and it takes that one step further. How to hire a business coach. You'll want to go in there. I think coaches get a bad rap, and it's because one, people hire something that they don't need, and two, there's people saying that they do things and maybe don't have the experience behind them. And so I have in there a checklist of things to look out for, and the right questions to ask yourself, and then the right questions to ask the coach that you're interviewing to hire. Please hear those words. You are interviewing them to hire them, because they get to become part of your team.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so vital because there's a lot of people that call themselves business coaches. We are not the only two in the whole entire world. And the best are right here, right now. But when you're looking, definitely make sure you ask the right questions. And it's an interview process. Like even the coaches that I work with, I'm like, you're interviewing your clients or prospects at that point just as much as they're interviewing you too. So as coaches, like knowing that you're interviewing both sides are in that conversation. So I love that.
It's to be a mutual fit for sure. If it is not a mutual fit, you will not create the result.
Yes.
Period. End of story.
Yep. Preach it. Griselda, thank you so much for being here. It was so fun chatting with you. I look forward to us continuing our relationship and seeing how we can collaborate again in the future. That's a wrap, everybody, for another episode of the Attract and Stand Out podcast. As always, know that I believe in you. You're allowed to stand out. You're allowed to shine. You're allowed to be you. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.